If what I'm about to describe feels familiar, this video is for you. When you apply Elliott Wave, do you find yourself searching for the right count? That one perfect structure that the market should follow? You're zooming in, zooming out, measuring fibs, label degrees, and even when your idea is directionally correct, you still end up getting stopped out before the move happens. And what makes it even more frustrating is that you've seen Elliott Wave be incredibly accurate, but you haven't cracked the code on being consistently profitable with it yourself. So today, I'm going to show you why your problem isn't your charting skills, but rather it's the mindset of trying to find the correct count. Then I'll walk you through the actual method that turns Elliott Wave from a prediction tool into a consistently profitable trading system. Now, I've used Elliott Wave since 2017. I've spent hundreds of hours labeling charts, backtesting waves, refining rules, and collecting data most traders have never even looked at. Now, that obsession is what took me from a broke Elliott Wave trader to financial freedom. And I want to help you avoid the years of frustration I went through. And it starts with letting go of the need to be right. So here's the truth. When you chase the right count, you're not chasing accuracy, you're chasing certainty. You're treating Elliott Wave like a crystal ball instead of the probability map it actually is. And that's where everything goes wrong. Because once you lock into one perfect scenario, you develop tunnel vision. You miss key signals and begin trading your ego's need to be right instead of trading what the market is actually doing. So here's the distinction that changes everything. Analysts use Elliott Wave to predict. Traders use Elliott Wave to navigate. And there are a lot more analysts on YouTube than traders. And it makes sense. Analysis is much easier than trading. So the purpose of Elliott Wave isn't to choose the right count. It's to map the possible paths that the market can take and then trade where those paths agree. So here's how you do that. Okay, step one is going to be overlay every valid count, even conflicting ones. Put them all on the chart. Step two is to identify the zones where multiple counts move together. These zones are going to be your high probability trading zones. Step three is to label the inflections. These are where the counts diverge from each other. And then step four is to trade a strategy inside of that zone, not the count itself. This is where 99% of Elliott Wave traders go wrong. When you trade the count, your entries, exits, and stop losses change every time, which creates inconsistency and destroys predictability. When you trade a strategy, though, your rules stay the same. Same conditions, same invalidations, same risk parameters, same execution every single time. Now, this is how you create predictable results through probability. And this right here is the key to mastering Elliott Wave as a trader, not as an analyst. Now let me show you exactly what this looks like in the charts with clear, actionable steps that you can start using today. So here's what the application of this looks like in the real charts, okay? We're first going to start off with our Elliott Wave count on fixed price, meaning that price is already printed. The count overlay process is a process that's applied to predicting and projecting where price can move to or how it can move forward. So it's going to be on candles that haven't formed yet. So we're going to apply every path potential that's available. The market can move this way in green and create a running flat here. It can create a impulse wave towards the downside. It can create just an ABC regular flat here. And it can also create a regular flat that then pivots and does an impulse wave towards the upside. So I've overlaid all the different ways in which the market can move. This is the count overlaying process. And the benefit to it is the fact that you get to see all the different ways that the market can move. So you don't typically get taken by surprise. You can see what is going to be called inflection points where the count diverges from each other. So our second step here, now that we've overlaid all the counts, is that we're going to identify where the counts move together at. This is going to create high probability trading zones. For example, we can see that all three counts reject from this territory here because we've got an assumed 5-wave move over here, so we can't go back up over the previous high. So there's a high probability that we're going to get a rejection in this territory for a scalp opportunity. This would be a great scalp trade here for us to overlay or zoom into a smaller time frame and take advantage of a strategy, which is the next step. It's to identify the inflection points where prices are going to diverge from each other here. So we have all three counts moving down here together, but if we were to find a higher low off of this move here, we could consolidate and move up correctively to create our running flat for the expanded B pocket. And so our first inflection zone is basically going to be down here, that if we retrace below the 0.618 fib retracement level of this move here, we're most likely at that point not going to be doing the green path. So probability shifts. So if I want to trade, I can choose a bias count. I just don't want to be tunnel visioned as to only looking at that bias count, because I'll miss these key inflection points where price can pivot, and then I'll convince myself that the pivot up is still in favor of the move towards the downside. And that's bias tunnel vision, right? That's where now you're trading your ego being right rather than acknowledging that key information is coming into the market and telling you that we're actually going to pivot back towards the upside. So high probability trading zone here, we then overlay the strategy, and we're aware of this inflection zone where the counts diverge from each other. So if we break underneath the 0.618, probability increases for us to move towards the downside. And we can start to release our green count. The next thing that I want to look at for inflection points is invalidations. My green path, for example, is invalidated when we come underneath the previous low here. So as price continues tripling towards the downside, I'll get 100% confirmation that this green path can come off the table, at which point we'll only be dealing with the impulse wave here towards the upside. And as one path closes or invalidates itself, sometimes another one opens. And so you're constantly going through this 4-step process where you're count overlaying. As one count invalidates, another one might open up given the price data that's come in. So you'll see that here live in action. So if we let this play out, let's go down to a 4-hour time frame here. And we can see that the first thing is price did end up dropping right here because that was our highest probability. So everything moved together. The fact that we came into it with speed quickly started to invalidate and decrease the probability of the green path. When we broke underneath the 618, our green path basically comes off the table. When we hit this previous low here and we break that new low, the green path is completely done. So we've now closed down one path, and now we've got our next inflection point, which is where we just simply sweep this low here, and we now have the opportunity for this to be the start of something here towards the upside versus it being a dead cat bounce that rolls back towards the downside for our blue impulse. So now you can see even I've created another inflection point where if we're going to move away from the blue impulse wave, that probability is going to shift right about here, where our retracement up right here isn't going to be an ABC and roll over. It's going to push through it, and it's going to start to become an impulse wave instead. So as we let price play out here again, okay, so there's our sweep of the low, make that move up. We're still in running flat territory where this can roll towards the downside, but the moment we start to break through this inflection point here, we're going to increase the probability towards the upside here. Now in this territory, we can see that these counts are diverging from each other. So this is going to be low probability. In other words, you're having to choose one count over the other rather than trading a trading zone like this right here where we had 3 counts that were moving in the same direction. This drop was a high probability trading zone. That's where we want to overlay strategies. This area right here, low probability because we're diverging between 2 counts. So you're having to make a decision on one over the other. So in this case, we'd rather already be positioned for a move towards the downside by, say, trading this impulse wave. But I want you to think about something with impulse waves. What shows up more often in the market, impulse waves or ABCs? And the answer is ABCs. And so we tend to be inclined to be biased towards the impulse wave because we will make more money faster, we'll be in the profit, and we have more security, more certainty with an impulse wave because the invalidations are clearer. So it favors everything that an Elliott Wave, analyst or Elliottian loves and their personality traits. But that's also the culprit or their weakness in the markets, is their desire to chase that certainty. And this process really helps you get more comfortable with embracing uncertainty by navigating high probability trade zones instead of focusing on just one single count. So that's our 4-step process for actually applying it to the charts. So that's the first shift. The second shift goes deeper. It's going to be psychological. Now, most Elliott Wave traders are analytical, detail-oriented, and high-achieving, right? You love precision, you love solving puzzles, and let's be honest, you love being right. Okay, those traits make you great at understanding the market, but they destroy you when you're trading it. And that's because the desire for the right count is really the desire for certainty. We desire certainty because it feels like safety. It feels like control. But the market doesn't reward control. The market rewards your ability to operate under uncertainty. And the only way to thrive in uncertainty is through probability. When you chase certainty, you take actions that sabotage probability, such as looking at more technicals. Okay, you change the variables you're using to make a decision that makes you feel like you're getting closer to being right and establishing certainty. This is why you've got to stop trading a single correct count. And in order to make this psychological shift, I'm going to pin a neuroscience-backed method at the end of this video and right up here for you to watch next. Because let's be honest, without the ability to actually rewire your brain, this entire video is useless. Okay, as you're just going to continue to create inconsistency by chasing certainty in the markets. And if you want to know the exact criteria I look for inside those trading zones, well, that's going to be this video right here, and I'll pin it at the end as well, where I teach you 3 professional level RSI techniques that 99% of traders have never seen before. Now, both links are also going to be down in the description, and I'll pin them in the comment below as well. Much love, fam.